Okay, time to start learning how to weave. So you're going to go ahead and pick out one piece of yarn. You're going to take a piece approximately your length or your length times 2. Okay, look at your end. If your end is a little bit fuzzy like mine, I would take some scissors and cut off that fuzziness. It's going to make it easier to thread a needle. Okay, then you're going to need to get your weaving needle. So the weaving needle it's a little bit different than the sewing needle. It has a much bigger eye of the needle, and then the other end is quite blunt, so it's not sharp at all. Okay, and I'm going to teach you my little trick. Okay, so you're going to get your piece ready, twist, and then slide your fingers down to the end, pinch your fingers, and you're going to pinch your fingers together like this to flatten the yarn. Get your needle ready. And then imagine that my fingers are little Pac-Man. And this is Pac-Man's tongue sticking out. So as I push his tongue out, I'm going to push that through the eye of the needle. So Pac-Man fingers, push through. Push through. Get about most of it through. Grab it from the other side. Okay, need a little tail. When you're sewing, you are not ever going to tie a knot on the needle because that would get stuck in the fabric. When you're weaving, you can tie a knot. So I make a circle. So if we lay that down, we make a circle, and then we bring this through the circle and tie a knot. Okay, you have threaded the needle. Okay, next thing you're going to do is get ready to weave. So it's over, under, and we're just going to do that all the way across, over, under. Sometimes you get about part way through, pull it a little bit. So we went last under, over, under, and say this to yourself until you get really good at it. Over, under. Okay, and once you get to the end, like this, now you need to pull all the yarn that you have across. Careful not to get it too knotted. Probably don't need to have quite as long of a piece as me. It makes it take longer. Okay, pull it all the way through. Be careful not to pull too hard because you don't want to lose this piece and then you've lost that row that you just did. Okay, so use your fingers like this. Okay, and pull your fingers down all the way to the bottom. Okay, straighten that piece out. Okay, that's first row. Now we're ready to go on. Alright, so the last thing that happened here is we went under this warp thread. Remember, the warp are these vertical pieces that stay on the loom. So my green yarn went under that warp thread, so now I'm going to go over. So basically looping around the edge. Okay, so over, under, and keep on going. Maybe about halfway through, pull just a little bit so it's easier to grab. Alright, so I last went under, over, under. Over, under. Okay, and again, pull all the way. Okay, now as we've made that first row, we have to be careful that we don't leave too much space here, but you don't want to pull too tight. So pull this down, squish it, and pull this a little bit tighter. Okay, you want to leave like a teeny tiny little space right here, teeny tiny, where you can just fit the needle in. Okay, this is what you do not want to do. You do not want to pull this. Otherwise, next thing you know, your whole design is going to go in like this. Okay, it'll naturally do that just a little bit. So if you accidentally pull, just go ahead and grab this, pull the needle back out, pull that piece a little bit more loose. Squish this down. Okay, and that's it. That's your basic weave. So you're going to keep going with this all the way across. If you end up accidentally taking a whole row out, that means that when you got to the end, you did not do the over under all the way around the edge. So you have to be careful. I'm going to show that one more time. So I pulled this all the way through. Okay, squish it down. Make sure I have a teeny tiny little space over here at the end. Don't pull too tight. Okay, so one more time just to show you this. I went under this warp thread last. This is underneath. So I need to go over the top and continue on. Sometimes what's going to happen is if you go back under here, you're going to undo everything you just did.